I got a question for you. Why is Ripple buying $1 billion in XRP instead of just using it in escrow? They have 30 some billion in escrow, don't they? Why are they doing that? Well, let's get one person's opinion about it in this article by Sam Wisdom Raphael. And of course, this is DK Will Talk About It. So, as we go along, I'm certain I'll be inspired to talk about it. Let's do this.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right.
And I hope the mic does sound right. Let's take a look into why Ripple is buying $1 billion worth of XRP instead of just using its escrow. And to be sure, Neats Bucks, an XRP community pundit, has shared his theory on why Ripple has decided to lead efforts to buy XRP instead of using its escrow balance. Let's keep that in mind because it says here that Ripple is jumping on the XRP Treasury trend, which a lot of companies are doing now. A lot of business entities are establishing XRP accounts in their Treasury. It goes on to say here, interestingly, such a move could build on existing trends surrounding XRP treasuries, as multiple firms have already shown interest in establishing these treasuries. Now, that's a business move, and it probably would help to understand the difference between an escrow account and a treasury account. I'll try to explain that difference. In this article here at Investopedia, escrow is a legal concept describing a financial agreement whereby an asset, in this case XRP, is held by a third party on behalf of two other parties that are in the process of completing a transaction. Escrow is a financial arrangement in which a neutral third party holds and manages funds or assets. It's a legal concept describing a financial agreement where assets or money are held by a neutral third party on behalf of two other parties that are in the process of completing a transaction. The transaction was the gifting of XRP to Ripple. That's one of the transactions. But the escrow accounts are managed by an escrow agent. The agent releases the assets and funds only upon the fulfillment of predetermined contractual obligations. What about those contractual obligations? Well, Ripple gives an explanation of the XRP escrow all the way back from 2017. David Schwartz gave the explanation. And we can't read it all, nor will we try. But what it says is they started out by locking up 55 billion into a series of escrows. And the escrows consist of an independent on ledger escrows that are released a total of 1 billion each month over the next 55 months. Now we know we've gone past that by now. But nonetheless, the point being is that during this process, these escrows are on the ledger itself, and the ledger mechanics enforced by consensus control the release of the XRP, not Ripple. And in this case, the third party referenced here, the neutral third party, is the ledger. And you can't get more neutral than programming. It's not even affected by human consensus. What is affected by human consensus is that any additional leftover each month will be placed into a new escrow to release in the first month in which no escrow currently releases. So it'll keep releasing and being replenished into a new escrow, releasing and being replenished into a new escrow. And then eventually the original 55 million that are dispersed will leave the escrows that were recreated when XRP, say, kept 300 million XRP and returned 700 million. Those created a new escrow system. That's very different from a treasury account. Treasury management benefits, functions, and services. Treasury management is a type of financial management system that involves managing business money. So that's the money, workable capital, and investments that the company Ripple has on hand. They don't have the escrow on hand, and they don't have the ability to manage that escrow until it's given to them. It's like being the beneficiary of, say, a trust. and you're the beneficiary of a trust, but the grantor who wrote the trust said that you will only be dispersed X amount of dollars every month. Even though eventually you'll get that trust, you have no control over the disbursement of that trust because the grantor said you will only get X number of dollars every month. And then the neutral third party, which could be a financial institution, is dispersing those disbursements to you. When we read this article here about Ripple buying $1 billion of XRP for their treasury account, that's their business operating money, not the escrow controlled by the system that's dispersing the Ripple to them, the XRP to them. And so it's a very wise business decision, as is what many firms are doing, because XRP is a wise investment. A treasury is just not composed of cash, it's not just composed of crypto, it's composed of assets. So, in our illustration of a trust, you have a grantor, a trustee who manages the funds, and the beneficiary who receives the funds. And in this explanation, the trustee managing the fund would be the ledger itself, the ledger mechanics enforced by consensus. And then the Treasury would receive $1 billion worth of XRP that they're going to put into their Treasury, is the reason why it's not coming from the escrow. Treasury management is the process of managing the financial resources of an organization to achieve its day to day operational and long term strategic goals. So until the disbursement of the escrow, Ripple doesn't control the escrow. They control it when it's dispersed to them, when it's distributed to them, much like the beneficiary receives those monthly checks from the trust fund. And so, reading this article, it helps to know that, to understand exactly what we're reading. They're making a financial decision in the interest of the company. Yes, they already have XRP on their balance sheet, but the XRP on their balance sheet is coming from the disbursements that they've already received and what remains. So, specifically, this person called attention to a theory popularized by certain pundits regarding pre allocation of risk Ripple's escrow holdings to certain institutions, meaning some of those disbursements from escrow may not be going to Ripple at all at this point. This theory suggests that Ripple may have entered deals that effectively sold most of its escrow holdings to the institutions. Now, that brings to light why, perhaps, in many occasions in the past, Ripple received their 1 billion disbursement of XRP, kept 300 and returned 700. It's quite likely that the 300 was a portion of going into their treasury, as well as going into some type of agreement and dispersed to some entity, some institution. That's very plausible. So, as such, Ripple may not be the sole owner of all the 35 billion SRP currently in escrow. It's like the beneficiary saying, look, how about we go into this agreement, and then when I get my monthly check of June, I will pay you a portion of that check. So, Ripple, when I get my 1 billion disbursement in June, I will give you 300 million, excuse me, of that 1 billion XRP. I hope that helps make it understandable. So, according to this pundit, if this theory is correct, then Ripple could actually have less XRP than the public believes, meaning they don't necessarily own the 35 billion left currently in escrow. Maybe they've made deals, made arrangements with the Black Rocks and the Grayscales and the Bitwises and the 21 shares for some of that escrow. The pundit goes on to say he suggests this could be the reason the firm chose to lead a fundraising effort to fill up its proposed XRP treasury instead of just using its escrowed tokens, because they don't control the escrowed tokens. But what we do know is the difference between an escrow and the difference between a treasury. It says here that he suggested that Ripple may have sold most of the tokens to institutional clients, the BlackRocks and things of that nature, the government, perhaps even the United States. And they could be storing them in escrow for these clients in a NDA that Larry Fink couldn't talk about when he was being asked about it on that Fox thing with Gasparano, the guy who turned traitor. So whether Ripple still owns its escrow tokens or not, the excitement surrounding the proposed Treasury has been palpable. In July, Bitwise CEO Hunter pondered if, within 12 months, Ripple could pivot into an XRP Treasury firm. Last November, Neatsbutts also questioned when Ripple would start buying XRP to build a Treasury. This may fast becoming a reality. Now we know they were cash rich in the first place, but every viable company, especially a viable company with the means of a Ripple and the contracts and the deals and the applications of a Ripple and their technology, would definitely have to have a treasury management for their company. And that's why when we look at this article, why is Ripple buying 1 billion? Because they're making a wise investment for their company's treasury. They will still get their disbursements of escrow according to whatever contractual agreements were already created. And those contractual agreements were discussed. And that's all I'm going to discuss. I'm DK Will. And this is DK Will Talk About It. And I talked about it. Have a wonderful day.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right.